Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. This is Jane Lovsky, your partner for bookkeeping, and I have Irene in the sky, who is your partner for employment law. And today we're going to be talking about year end. And I would like to talk about the year end accounting checklist, which is really important to close off the 2022 and the last quarter. So let's kind of go through this one by one. So first, we'd like to go to gather and analyze financial statements. So for financial statements, which is our income statement, balance sheet, we want to make sure that you've told your accountant about all the bank and credit card statements you might have in the accounts that they might not be aware of. Um, and you want to kind of look at it and anticipate, look at estimated income. And that kind of leads me to a very, very important point that before you deposit any last minute checks in December, you want to consult your accountant and kind of see where it goes with that. We had a situation where a client received a really big chunk of money the last day of December. On December 31st, they decided without talking to anybody to deposit this check. They were really excited. And then the accountant saw it already in the next year and what happened? Why didn't you tell us? We didn't anticipate tax wise. So that really one day caused a lot of issues tax wise that nobody prepared for. So we really want to be kind of mindful of that. And it's important to talk to your accountant about any of these type of moves, especially the last month of the year. Then we want to go to sort of the past due invoices. So you want to look at that. And if you can't collect something, it's important to write it off before the year end. You want to look at the inventory if it's applicable to make sure you have the right count. You want to organize all your business receipts, and you want to make sure that you're going to have those available if the accountant needs it. And so to make sure that everything is sort of prepared, right? You don't want to be looking for it last minute and kind of saying, oh no, I had it, but I can't find it. So, the rule of thumb is if you can't find it, nobody could look for it, then we can't really take it, right? Unless it goes through a credit card or anything like that. But if it's cash related and there's no receipt, we're not going to be deducting that expense, for example. So then we're going to be looking at all the bank accounts and credit cards. We want to reconcile. You want to make sure that you have all the backup information that ties in back to our financial statements. And, you want to look at the payables, receivables, and any sort of backup information that's needed. And so have all these documents ready for the accountant so it could all be sort of tied up at the year end. So if you also do any payroll, we've had clients who were switching payroll providers and not telling the accountant or us, which is also important to let your accountant know about that. And if there's anything else that they might be needing, or just even if it's unnecessary information, it's better to share than not. And of course, it's important to collect any W-9 information as you're getting independent contractors. But if you happened not to have it at that moment, you have to make sure that we have it before the year end, because when we prepare 1099s at the end of January, that month flies by really fast. And it's just good to have all that information. And I think that with the accounting standpoint, that's a pretty good checklist for the Q4 of 2022, which kind of leads us to Irene, because I think it's also important to start planning for the 2023 year. And I'd like to go to Irene to talk about, her checklist. What should we be looking at?
Thank you so much, Jane. So absolutely, everything that Jane just talked about to prepare for the end of the year is incredibly important to ensure that as you flow into the new year, everything from an accounting standpoint is sound, especially when it comes to documentation. And so for preparing for the new year, from an employment point of view, I always recommend this is a perfect time to take a look at all of the laws that came into effect in the prior year that, yeah, if you're continuously updating your documentation should already be in there, but if you're not, may not have made their way into the records. This is a good time to take a look at your employee handbook, take a look at everything that happened over the last year, whether it comes to vacation policies or any additional time for sick leave if you'd like to provide that, classification of employment. Some of my clients decided after a year of turbulent hiring and certainly recruitment has been very rough in 2021 and 2022. Some of my clients have decided that they'll move forward with certain policies on training, which is actually something that we've talked about in one of our previous podcasts as well. And from that comes a lot of questions of, well, how do we pay? Methods of payment, classification and proper classification of employment. And we find that a lot of our a lot of our clients have their employment set up in such a way where they do pay as 1099 for workers who would otherwise very much be classified and considered as employees. And we see the biggest change to properly accounting for these employees and classifying them happening towards the end of the year to start the new year off right. And that could have been triggered due to an audit that took place, or that can be something, obviously, that's just been told because you've consulted with your accountant, you've consulted with your attorney, and this is just a proper move to ensure that the employees are on payroll. So it's very important that if you're going to make that shift, of course, you do that as soon as possible. But also, there's always that good faith position that we like to take, that before the end of the year, we really review all policies. And if there was anything that happened in the prior year, we have in good faith fixed it prior to an issue coming up before the new year began. So it is definitely something that I recommend doing with an employee handbook starting in the beginning of the year. Also, another reason why the beginning of the year, even though new laws come out throughout the year, so it's not that you're just going to receive all the new laws that are going to take place in December. We know all of them and we can plug them in. That, of course, would be very logical if the states and federal government were to give us all those laws in December, but that's not how everything works. So unfortunately, we do get them throughout the year. But the reason I recommend, specifically in December, doing a big overhaul of any new policies that the company might have, not so much legal new laws, but internal policies, is because I find that my clients tell me that there are less questions from their employees when new policies come out for the new year. It is very much standard for a company to come up with updated rules, policies, and instead of that taking place sometime in the middle of July, where we find there's a lot of pushback because you're in the middle of the year and everybody's working, for that to take place after everyone comes back from holidays and into the new year, and everyone is provided with information on the new policies that might be part of the employee handbook, employment agreement, and so on. Also, any employees that may have been working for the company that may not have signed an employment agreement. And we have a lot of our clients who say, well, this person's been with us for 7 years. Certainly we're concerned that they didn't sign anything, but how do we ask them after 7 years to go ahead and sign an employment agreement now? They're going to think we don't trust them. Of course, the first thing you have to do is protect the company. So I would recommend in the beginning of the year, if you're updating policies, you'd likely be updating employment agreements as well, which means that everyone would have to re-sign. So it really answers that question of why now would you provide an employment agreement to this specific employee? And this, as I said, this really does come up quite often. And we always have that one employee that didn't sign. And, of course, as you can imagine, that's usually who causes some problems down the line. And it's very important also that your employees have a chance to review any new policies that come in. So providing a new employee handbook, don't forget, employee handbooks there should be an acknowledgement sign. They should be reviewed beforehand by the employees and sign that they've received a copy of it. And so it's very important that you don't just come in with some new policies and really do a full overhaul without allowing your employees some time to review that as well, which is why timing is so important, and really why I say that beginning of October is the best time to get started, right before the holidays, right before everyone starts taking their breaks, to get started on updating all of those policies, taking a look at how they look on paper, consulting with your accountant if that's going to be the proper method, consulting with your attorney if what you'd like to put in as a policy is legal, and then also providing your employees with ample time to review and sign the acknowledgement agreements going into the new year. Same is going to be the case for employment agreements, for any state forms, wage notice forms that may not have been signed. The beginning of the year, well, as soon as possible is the best time. But always, if there's a big overhaul and you pick up all the files and you do a self-audit and you see that those wage notices weren't signed, very, very good to put those as part of the documents that's presented in the beginning of the year as well, and really start the year off right. If you do have any questions, because I know that Jane and I during this specific podcast really covered a lot of information. Jane's checklist was very comprehensive, and we also went over a lot of new policies that could be updated in certain documents. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Jane or I. We're always here to help. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.